U.S. disengagement.
Trump's term should be called U.S. disengagement.
It became a proxy war in itself, spotlighting democracy versus authoritarianism.
There is a war going on. There are two sides, good and evil.
To destroy it with right-wing movements.
Also left-wing movements. People are paying with their lives. We're reading all these stories every day. Bombs are falling.
Meanwhile, Russia unleashed its biggest drone assault on Ukraine's energy grid in months, plunging Kyiv, Odessa, Lviv, and Kharkiv into darkness. Danger around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant on emergency generators.
Russia is trying to make Ukrainians feel like they are forgotten. The world doesn't care about them. They cannot win. This will be forever. Sometimes it's hard to see ahead.
On Putin's birthday, Ukraine had a little gift. I can't read this with a straight face. They're lining up for gas. Huge lines. 38% of Russian oil refinery capacity.
Because the Russians, they deserve the best. They're supposed to fight corruption in Russia.
Are people donating to this? The only business that's booming in Russia right now is the funeral business. 1 million Russians dead in rubles and coffins. Russia is feeding human lives into a war it can't win. Human life, nothing to Russia.
Russia sells fear. When Russia collapses, the world will know peace. Over 90% of all the world terrorism, wars, everything is caused by Russia.
If you really want to get fancy, say that you support tomahawks to Ukraine, saying Ukraine can win. Ukraine is still holding the line against missiles, against lies, against silence as well. Every strike, truth, and act of resistance still matters. This is wild. This was a huge shocker. October 10th, Nobel Peace Prize awarded to Maria Corina Machado, Venezuelan opposition leader, honored for nonviolent struggle for democracy against Maduro. She's currently in hiding, second Venezuelan to win since 1980. Wild twist, dedicated the prize to Donald Trump for his decisive support of our cause. That's what she said. Called on Trump to help Venezuela conquer freedom. Trump's reaction was claimed Machado called him directly. He accepted it in his honor and he said, I didn't do it for that, but I saved lives in Gaza and Ukraine. Okay. He's really taking it all in, huh? Zelenskyy's earlier statement, if Trump gives Ukraine a real ceasefire, we will nominate him for the Nobel, tied directly to delivery of Tomahawk missiles. The Nobel Committee also says that they award courage, not politics. And then Putin weighed in on that, called Trump a force for good, and mocked Nobel as discredited, claimed Price ignored true peacemakers.
Когда комитет этот присуждал Нобелевскую премию мира людям, которые для мира ничего не сделали. И, на мой взгляд, этими решениями они нанесли огромный ущерб авторитету этой премии.
Was coming from Putin. This whole Nobel Peace Prize kind of became a proxy war in itself because it's spotlighting democracy versus authoritarianism. And Trump is being acclaimed by both sides of the front.
There is a war going on. There are two sides. There's a good and evil. It's not, I hate this both sidism. Like when people are saying, let's find good in Putin and see what he's trying to do. What he's trying to do is a genocide. We should be firm in our thoughts, in our actions. It's going to take everything that we have to win this. It's not easy. People are paying with their lives. We're reading all these stories every day. Bombs are falling. Tonight, people died. Every night, people are dying. And you're going to have this face of Putin, his smug, smirky face, who hates all our institution, who is making a mockery. He's going to go over there and we're going to give him a platform to say this Nobel Peace Prize is a joke. Maybe it is. But he has no way he shouldn't say anything about what we built at the Western society, Western civilization. He's trying to destroy it.
Absolutely. He's trying to destroy it with right-wing movements. That's what he's doing through Europe, obviously in the United States, destabilizing.
No, exactly right. Also with left-wing movements. So Russia is reaching out to any kind of groups that are seeking power in your country. Look around. If you have a very hard left, very hard right, people without principles, people who are hungry for power, people who want more exposure, more money, because Russia will just send you money, like bags of cash, like they did for Moldova, where they were just trying to win an election, like they're doing in Czech Republic, where they aggressively pushed their pro-Russian coalition in the Czech government right now. So Russia is doing this everywhere around the world.
Meanwhile, Russia unleashed its biggest drone assault on Ukraine's energy grid in months, plunging Kyiv, Odessa, Lviv, and Kharkiv into darkness. But Ukraine is striking back with precision. Now it's at 38% of Russia's oil refinery capacity taken out. And it's in just months. Zelenskyy made it clear, if they want to black out us, we will do the same. Russia must feel the price of this war. Ukraine is still holding the line against missiles, against lies, against silence as well. And every strike, every truth, and every act of resistance still matters. This week, there were massive drone strikes on Kyiv and Ukrainian energy infrastructure. From October 5th to 11th, Russia launched a series of massive drone and missile attacks, 1,523 drones and 93 missiles in 1 week. 5 civilians dead, 18 injured across 9 regions. 73,000 homes without power in Zaporizhia. On October 10th, Kyiv was hit hard. 32 missiles and 465 drones. 20 people were wounded. There are now water shortages, thermal plants damaged. The air defense shot down 405 drones and 15 missiles. Zelenskyy said this is psychological pressure, calculated terror, because the targets are civilian infrastructure, gas plants, hospitals. There's danger around the Zaporizhia nuclear plant on its emergency generators. Russia trying to knock out heating before winter. He said, this is terrorism.
It's hard to say what will happen with electricity today. We'll be ready for all the challenges ahead. We're working on this every single day. We'll defend ourselves and keep fighting. The Russians should know we'll gradually ramp up production so they feel what we feel.
And energy imports from Russia now. There needs to be action. US, UK, Germany components were found in Russian weapons, by the way. And EU's Kaja Kallas said tear to cover for failed offensives. So, Johnny, think that there's pressure on Russia from Western leaders, or we're just gonna keep doing this dance over and over?
I'll just pretend I'm Commander Macmillan for a second. From the point of strategic warfare, of military action, all these strikes on civilian infrastructure, they don't make any sense. They're not going to help Russia win. Not at all. However, it is a terrorism. It's exactly like Zelenskyy said. Russia is trying to make Ukrainians feel like they are forgotten, like the world doesn't care about them, like they cannot win, like this will be forever. Sometimes it's hard to see the bright ahead.
Ukraine is fighting back by taking out Russia's oil refineries. From the past week, There was quite a few that were taken out. Kirishi Refinery was hit in Leningrad Oblast. It's quite a list. It's very impressive. So just bear with me. The drone strikes on Siberian refinery. Plus, there was explosive chemical plants there as well. And keep in mind, there's no casualties here. Ukraine is doing it very, very carefully, not killing Russian civilians, as Russia is doing to Ukraine. Next was a Fedosia terminal fire, which is in Crimea. There was a huge, large-scale fire, and the impact is absolutely brilliant. 21 out of 38 Russian refineries hit. This is in 2025, which is 48% more than 2024. Diesel exports are right now at a 5-year low. Gas shortages in Far East, Siberia, Caucasus, Crimea as well. Prices are up 10 to 11%. And yeah, Putin is hurting. Russia is hurting. I mean, we've been talking about they're lining up for gas. Huge lines, half an hour of the video itself. And Zelenskyy says, crush their oil industry to force negotiation, and that's Ukraine's tactic. Pretty damn good one.
And it's working. There are two ways to do this. Ukraine has been asking from day one, let's have really good, meaningful sanctions. And to a point, Western countries have tried to implement these sanctions. I know Biden, on day one, the United States stopped buying oil from Russia, which was 3% of all the oil that was coming into the United States. Of course, that hurt Russia, but Russia is very good at adapting. By the way, it also hurt the United States because our oil prices, our gas prices went up because of that. We didn't have any shortages, but we had to readjust. Anytime when you implement sanctions, like you're trying to stop a genocide, you're trying to stop this war. And Biden did the right thing, but at the same time, Russia used this as an information tactic to mobilize all of the Republicans to say, look, Biden is working against the United States' interest. Like, he raised the prices of oil. He stopped buying from Russia. Russia is not our enemy. Now we have to pay more money for gas. And that tactic has continued throughout the America First messages that let's forget about like hurting Russia. Let's forget about fighting for Ukrainian cause. Even though it's not a Ukrainian cause, we have the biggest military conflict since World War II in the middle of Europe. Europe is our allies. Ukraine is our allies. We're helping our allies. We have signed documents and agreements, Budapest Memorandum and others with Ukraine, with Europe. We have to protect because it's us. This is a modern world. There is no a wall between us and them. First they destroy our neighbors, then they come and destroy us. If they don't destroy us physically, they destroy us by uniting, by making their alliances with China, with North Korea, with India, and kick us out. And we're going to be struggling. We're going to have price increases without Biden over here.
On Putin's birthday, Ukraine had a little gift. Ukraine strikes 2,000 kilometers inside Russia. Ukrainian drones targeted the Antipinitsky oil refinery in Tyumen, Siberia. One of the deepest strikes. Yeah, this is the deepest known strikes inside Russia so far. Distance, 2,000 kilometers from Ukraine's border. This happened on October 7th, which is Putin's birthday. Emergency services in Russia responded to explosions, and of course, as always, they said there were drone interceptions that were reported. No fire, says Russia, as always. The strike caps off a campaign that already crippled 38% of Russian oil refinery capacity. Guys, Ukraine is doing this really quick. Only 2-3 weeks, we were saying at 20%. Now we're at 38%. Incredible. Ukraine didn't send flowers to Putin, but they sure sent the drones.
Well, the drones have very nice names, so at least that should help to celebrate. Russia is huge, right? Ukraine has to strike because that's where the oil refineries are, and it's an incredible achievement. Like, let's say United States and Europe, they will help us to get those strikes out. We couldn't do it because who's going to give us these capabilities to strike 2,000 kilometers from Ukrainian border. That's like intercontinental capabilities. Like, you have to appreciate what Ukraine is doing right now. It's absolutely incredible. Yep. Russian opposition.
Embezzling. They're embezzling.
I urge everyone to never donate to any Russian opposition parties. They don't really exist. They are rich, extremely rich. They always get funding. The Westerners are so sympathetic to these poor Russians. They come to Europe, they start crying that they're fighting against this evil regime of Russia, against the evil Putin, that they're suffering. They're all millionaires, by the way. They come to Europe, they get grants, they get tons of money from Europeans. They settle in the richest parts of the city, in the best parts of Paris, Berlin, Amsterdam. These are the non-profit organizations, right? They're fighting the evil Russian regime. They have the huge spaces in the middle of the most expensive, because they're Russians. They deserve the best. They're supposed to fight corruption in Russia with a good view of Elysian fields.
With the Lamborghini.
They have greatest cars. They have prostitutes delivered. You name it. All happening over there. And by the way, everything that they're doing, also Putin's media is writing that that's what Ukrainians are doing, which is Russian propaganda. Excuse me. You're a sucker if you're donating to any of these Russian oppositions. They're not really an opposition. They're all playing the same game. They're getting ready just in case.
Unfortunately, it's not just Russian opposition. Russians are always victims. I even see it on YouTube. I don't know how this came up in my algorithm, but there was some Russian prostitute. By the way, I call every Russian woman a prostitute. But there was a Russian prostitute in my algorithm video, how she's going around in Russia crying about how high the food prices are. Obviously, not once did she say anything about the war. They'll get in trouble. But she was...
Ukraine doesn't exist
right,
to them.
There's no such thing. And she was crying to Western dudes. I couldn't watch the whole thing. I could only take 2 minutes of it. Then I was curious, are people donating to this? I went to the comments, scrolling. American dudes, just, there you go. And she wasn't even looking for anything crazy. Just a plain
She's a
Russian,
victim.
yeah, playing the victim, Russian prostitute.
Americans, they have empathy. Americans, they want to help the victim. They don't like suffering. But these people, they don't suffer. All of them are very rich. If they're kind of opposition that are speaking out, they are in cahoots with Russian government. You know, they have a free entrance to speak with Putin. They receive funding from Russia sometimes. Like, the rabbit hole goes so deep, these people. They're not any kind of victims. The only true Russian opposition is Boris Nemtsov. That's the last Russian opposition. And he's laying 6 feet under. That's what happens if you are truly Russian opposition. This is a person who was calling a spade, who was calling out the war of Putin in Ukraine, who was saying that Crimea is Ukraine. He would pass the Crimean check. Yulia Navalny is not going to pass the Crimean check. Just like Trump, just like all those other Russians. But Lithuania is very close to Russia. Lithuania feels and understands the dangers that Russia is posing, and they're holding the front. They're doing good. However, like any country in the world right now, Russia is attacking Ukraine. They're buying their politicians. So just last week, on October 4th, there was a scandal where a prominent Lithuanian politician, Ignatas Adamavičius, he failed. We Ukrainians call it the Crimea test. We've been doing it for 10 years plus, right? So what we do is we want to quickly find out who you are. We ask you, is Ukraine Crimean or Russian? Russia doesn't forgive. Russia doesn't forgive you for calling Crimea Ukrainian. It's an unforgivable sin. Harry Potter style, there's Voldemort does not forgive certain things. You cannot call Crimea Ukrainian if you're trying to deal with Russia, if you're vaguely associated with Russia. You have to kind of being vague. So on interview on October 3rd in 2025, during an interview with the Lithuanian news portal Rytas, Adamavičius was asked about the legal status of Crimea. It's a very simple question. According to every document in the world, according to UN, to every document signed by Russia, by every country on the planet, Crimea is Ukraine. It's very easy to answer. He was unable to provide a clear answer and instead called the question provocative. So this caused a widespread public backlash. Thank you, Lithuanians. We should all learn from this. This Anna, Luna, whatever person, she should face the same backlash. But we're not there yet. We're not like Lithuanians. We should strive to be like Lithuanians. So there was a backlash and they put the pressure on Adomavičius to resign. The next day, President Gitanas Nausėda officially signed the decree to finalize the minister's dismissal. They dismissed him. After leaving his post, Adomavičius stated that Crimea belongs to Ukraine, but is unfortunately occupied. When asked why he had not said that earlier, he said that journalists' question had been incorrectly framed. He's going to say, well, there is a history, we don't know. At some point it was Soviet Union, right now they're occupied. So he's not going to give you a straight answer. There's only one correct answer. Crimea is Ukraine. It's occupied by Russia. It's factually correct, supported by every document ever signed by any country on the planet, including Russia. So that's what happens, and big props to Lithuanians. This is a lesson learned for all of us. That's what every country should do. Otherwise, we're not going to survive this.
Ukrainian F-16 ace shoots down 6 Russian missiles with only 4 of his own. That's pretty incredible, if you ask me.
Yeah, I read that. I forgot. How did he do that? How come only 4 missiles? Do you have any details?
A Ukrainian F-16 pilot set a new air defense record. He downed 6 Russian cruise missiles in a single sortie using just 4 missiles and his onboard cannon.
He did something very smart.
A mission. This was back in December 13th. During a massive Russian attack, 200 drones were attacking and 94 cruise missiles at the time. Fired 4 air-to-air missiles and downed 4 cruise missiles. Then got 2 more cruising missiles that were approaching Kyiv. Out of the missiles, he switched to his M61 Vulcan 20mm gun.
Yeah, so that's a machine gun that's on his...
Close to 500 meters and shot down both with cannon fire. First time done in Ukrainian airspace. He dedicated the flight to a fallen comrade, Alexei Moonfish, who died while intercepting missiles earlier. He credits Western training, such as Patriots, Iris-Ts, etc., and the new mental shift in Ukrainian pilots as well.
Meet the Ukrainian F-16 pilot who managed to shoot down 6 Russian missiles in a single combat mission, an achievement never before recorded over Ukrainian skies.
And I just instantly saw a big splash. I realized, okay, I hit with my 20mm round this cruise missile. I realized that I'm doing that for my nation, for all people, and especially for my comrade pilot, Moonfish, who fell down during the interception. Unfortunately, only me landed on the airfield back after the interception. I had only 4 air air missiles for this jet. I did my best and I shot down 4 missiles by my 4 missiles. Instantly I got some information that there is new 2 more cruise missiles which were leading to Kyiv.
Though his jet was depleted of air-to-air missiles, he nevertheless decided to destroy these targets.
I still had something on my jet. I had gun. Before that, nobody had shot down cruise missiles or even some aerial targets in our airspace by F-16 gun. And we were also trained in States as well to do that on simulators and as well theoretically on our lectures. I realized that, okay, buddy, you can't shoot from the distance because you don't have your air-to-air missiles on your jet, so you need to get closer. So that's what I did. I actually saw these missiles. I was flying with these missiles like information, you know. From my aspect, it was only one missile, in my view. Landed and told guys that I shot down 5 cruise missiles because I didn't realize that I hit with my shot 2 missiles.
During the flight debriefing and analysis of jet materials, it became evident, in a single burst, he had managed to destroy both missiles headed for the Ukrainian capital.
I was sitting in this jet in a cockpit of F-16 and I was proud and I was happy that we have ability to use these jets already and to intercept these missiles and to be more lethal against such targets. We appreciate this help and all this equipment, all this weapons such as F-16s, systems like Patriots, NASAMS, Iris-T. We very thankful, and I can't even imagine how this war would go without this. We can be a wall between Russia, and as you can see, the appetite of Putin is more than just Ukraine. This war is going further and further, as you can see, and we should create our collective defense to prevent in the future something what happened here. We're a very peaceful nation, and if somebody come here in Ukraine like a guest, we will treat them good with the bread. But if somebody come here with a sword, we will fight with our swords. Don't give up in case to support us. We should continue stand, and we should continue fight, because we are fighting for our peaceful future.
Even when missiles run out, Ukraine's pilots are improvising and turning cannons into missile killers. Scale and innovation.
Innovation, and also it's like level World War II kind of heroism, when you can see that you don't have any missiles left and the enemy bombs are still flying towards your city. You understand there are children there, there are women, there are hospital. Usually Russia hits those. Russia prefers to hit hospital, like a shopping center, a gas station, anything that regular people are using. So, and what are you going to do, you know? Let's destroy Russia and we can start shooting great Hollywood movies about Ukrainian heroism, about people using 4 missiles to down 6 enemy drones, missiles, whatnot.
Because now it's all about drone warfare, and both sides, Russia and Ukraine, they started putting up nets to protect from...
Basically, this is the road in Kherson. And that's kind of what it looks like. That's the reality on the ground in Kherson. This is how they install the nets. You can see that the truck is over there, kind of, just pulling them up over the trees. The cars can safely travel. The nets look like.
By the way, to Sweden and Baltic countries, because these are actually fishing nets, which they donated to Ukraine to use against drones now.
Thank you, guys. You know, it takes everyone to fight this evil that's happening right now. And Ukraine is very thankful to all these countries. Yeah, this is the reality. That's what you get for having a neighbor who likes to kill you. That's the reality. That's how Khersonians... This is life. Can you imagine this? That's how Khersonians get out to get some bread, to get kids to school. There's a bus over there.
We're used to these images, because if Russia is not stopped and it's going to keep going with drone warfare, that's how roads, I'm going to say, in Europe will need to look like if Ukraine falls.
Yeah, if you don't push back, this is not going to stop with Ukraine. And we've been saying that from day one. So that's the initial stages of how they do it. They put all these wooden poles. I guess that saves on cost. You can see that these wooden poles are nothing fancy. It's just a way to hold them up. That's all you need. Just enough clearance so the trucks, the buses, the cars can get under it and without being blown up. Of course, you cannot do it everywhere. You cannot just close the sky everywhere. There's still some areas that are exposed. And wherever they are exposed, Russians will exploit those areas and they will still hit the targets. But at least you can cover some of those approaches. This is how they test it. Ukrainians, they're sending out a test drone and they're testing it whether it can actually penetrate the net. And you can see that the net is safely blocking the drone, test drone. This is not a real explosive, it's a bottle of water just to test if it works. That's how it looks like when the drone is caught in the net.
Zelenskyy promised response to Russia's attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructures. He announced a mega deal for U.S. air defense. So the following infrastructure strikes, Zelenskyy pushed back, announcing a new arms push and deal with the U.S. for advanced air defense systems. He said, "We must respond and we must protect ourselves." Zelenskyy flagged Russia's use of precision stocks, timing in rain fog to weaken the air defense. So Russia has some new tactics that it's using. He revealed Ukraine's delegation is negotiating a mega deal for U.S. air defense systems, such as Patriots, HIMARS, and modifications to use ATACMS, possibly Pearl, and bilateral weapons program. He asked the UK to join the Pearl initiative, linking frozen Russian assets funds to the weapons flow. I mean, Zelenskyy is doubling down on defense procurement, emphasizing US systems, and setting up long-range strike capabilities. The arms game is escalating again. And I think Ukraine has the cards.
Remember, shortly after Zelenskyy visited White House and there was this despicable performance where they said, you have no cards.
You don't have the cards right now.
Month, there was this brilliant Ukrainian operation when they struck with drones. They destroyed 34% of Russian strategic aviation. Can you imagine sitting there in the White House thinking about you have this huge operation that you have to keep secret from United States because they're leaking everything to Russia. They cannot keep their house safe. We cannot keep tight information space over here. Russia gets wind of everything we're doing, or if Ukraine is saying anything to United States. So you have to sit there and listen how you have no cards and you're in the middle of rewriting military history with this amazing operation, that is going to shock the world just less than a month from now. That's kind of
shocking to people who follow the war and understand what's going on. Many people, they think because Russia is big, how can Ukraine can possibly win? Thank God Trump is turning around and saying Ukraine can win. People, they just don't know what's going on, and they still think Russia is a threat. Also, Russia threatens nuclear strikes pretty much every other week on someone different. And that's what people see in propaganda. They see more of Russia's threats, of how big and scary Russia is, rather than what is actually happening and what Russia is.
Russia sells fear. Just remember that. That's the biggest product that Russia has. When they say Russia doesn't produce anything, they produce one thing. They don't produce good cars. They don't have phones, electronics, clothing, nothing. Remember their congressman? She said, I just learned we don't make nails. They import nails. The nails where you nail something. Hammer with a hammer. She's like, I just realized we're not making any nails within Russia. We import any nail in Russia is imported, like from China and whatnot. They're not making anything. But one thing they surely produce is fear, and they count on it strategically.
Minister for Recovery of Stolen Toilets had mentioned the elephant in the room. The West is heavily invested in Russia, and Russia's money makes the West rich. To talk about the EU hypocrisy, some states raised Russian energy imports to 12 billion despite backing Ukraine. It's a jarring contradiction that states that publicly support Ukraine are actually increasing imports of Russian energy, spending nearly 12 billion in 2025. Several EU nations boosted Russian energy imports in 2025, such as for gas and oil, while voicing support for Kyiv. Total additional spending is close to 12 billion. This shows how dependence, profit, and politics still pull these nations towards Moscow's wallet. The moral high ground is thin here when your energy contracts betray your stated values. Use this as a contrast to Ukraine's consistency versus European hypocrisy. We have Hungary here, run by Viktor Orban. Next up, Slovakia, Fico. France, in 2025, this orange line went way up. Belgium, Spain, the biggest jump was from France, leader that could stand next to Zelenskyy, of the free world and getting coalition of the willing. Recently, he's been disappointing quite a bit. He also doesn't support Russian frozen assets going to Ukraine. We talked about fear. I don't know what they did to Macron recently, but he's been supporting Ukraine, but doing the opposite.
Well, Russia were complicit in huge protests of the Yellow Jackets during Macron's first term. When he was just in power, he was very outspoken against Russia. He said that the Russia is evil empire. He said all the right things. And he kept saying that, and Russians tried to organize a coup. And they kind of let him know, listen, you're going to lose your country. We're going to burn Paris to the ground. And they partially succeeded. And he switched on a dime very quickly. He learned that you have to tread carefully with Russia, and ever since then he's been careful, even though still occasionally he does say the right thing. With Russia, he says all the right messages he wants to, but it's really hard because Russia is everywhere. They're fighting levels with you economically, informationally every which way they can.
Now the death toll tops 1 million. Ukraine's military intelligence project, I Want to Live, released updated Russian loss figures for the first 8 months of 2025. 181,000 troops. Cumulative total since February 2022 for 1 million Russians dead. And this is dead. This does not include wounded, amputees, or psychologically broken soldiers. This is wild. The Kremlin still pretends they've only lost a few thousand, as always gaslighting their own people as they burn through entire generations. These updated figures drop just as Russia escalates fall conscription plans and tries to lure recruits with signing bonuses in rubles and coffins. You can only lie to grieving mothers for so long. I'm just saying. Russia is feeding human lives into a war it can't win. And Ukraine's holding the line. Russia, Russia, Russia. Human lives are nothing to Russia. People are just a number. In a civilized world, value life above everything else. The only business that's booming in Russia right now is the funeral business. It's a mafia runs it. It's very corrupt. But yeah, that's the only money maker in Russia. The funeral business. That's so bleak.
No peace.
Russia hosted a summit and Lavrov praised the Taliban for fighting ISIS and curbing the drug trafficking. It's so ridiculous. He called on the West to also lift sanctions and officially recognize the Taliban regime. I can't read this with a straight face. I'm sorry, guys. The Taliban leadership called it an unprecedented opportunity to strengthen ties with Moscow, especially amidst the U.S. disengagement.
Trump's term should be called that. U.S. disengagement. They're never stopping. All I can say on this is when Russia collapses, the world will know peace. Over 90% of all the world terrorism, wars, everything that's going on in the world right now, all around the world, is caused by Russia. People don't realize how much of these terrorist organizations are supported just directly by Russian money. With all the gas and oil that people are buying around the world, thank God it's less and less right now, thanks to Ukraine. Hamas, any kind of terrorist organization. Russia was paying to Taliban when the United States were there to kill. They were paying for each killed Ukrainian soldiers. They were paying them money. They are inviting any kind of terrorists to Moscow and St. Petersburg, either openly or under wraps, to give them guidance, to give them support, to send them back so that they can continue terrorism around the world. Defeat Russia and we will know peace.
Please call your government officials. It's so important that you do. Call at least once a week, because every week what they do is they tally up their phone calls. Let's say you get 200 MAGA. My tax dollar is going to anti-Ukrainian calls, 30 pro-Ukrainian calls. End of the week, tally it up. You don't need to convince them. You don't need to debate them. All you do, leave a message, say you're a constituent and you support Ukraine. If you really want to get fancy, say that you support tomahawks to Ukraine.
Right now.
So this week reminded us that in war, narrative is a weapon. The front lines runs through many of our screens as Ukraine's skies lit up with drones and the streets of Kyiv went dark with power cuts. The world's attention was on a gold medal in Scandinavia, and who didn't get it, to be precisely. But while prizes and press releases come and go, Ukraine is still here, breaking the spine of the Russian oil economy, holding the line on every front and refusing to bow to terror. So keep showing up, keep fighting the information war, and keep reminding the world what's really at stake. Before you go, you can help. You can hit like, share, subscribe if you haven't, and tell someone why this conversation matters. That's how we make sure the next one is even louder. So be brave, be relentless, be brave like Ukraine. And if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe to channel Yarochenko and Young Ukrainians. Thank you, Johnny, and every single one of you watching. Thank you. You're not just viewers, you are allies in the war for truth. So be fierce, be brave like Ukraine, and God bless America and Slava Ukraini.
Slava.
This is SlavaCast.